The calendar notification blinked on my screen. Required. Surgery pre-op appointment. Next to it, a second notification appeared. Mandatory. Kent's retirement celebration. Both scheduled for Thursday at 10 a.m. I stared at the screen, my heart racing. My surgery had been scheduled for months. A procedure to remove suspicious tissue they'd found during my last scan. The doctors had emphasized repeatedly how critical it was to not delay further. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, preparing to email Kent that I couldn't attend his retirement party. That's when my office phone rang. "Audra, I notice you haven't RSVP'd to my retirement gala," Kent said, his tone clipped and irritated. "I have a medical procedure scheduled that day. It's been on the calendar for—" "Cancel it," he interrupted. "This retirement party is non-negotiable for department heads. The entire board will be there, including our new CEO. You especially need to show up, considering your recent performance issues." My cheeks burned. The performance issues he referred to were directly tied to the days I'd missed for medical appointments, days he'd approved, then later criticized me for taking. "Kent, this is a potentially life-saving procedure. The doctors are concerned about— Everyone has health concerns, Audra. I've worked here for 37 years without missing a single important event. 37 years. Do you know how many family gatherings I've skipped for this company? My retirement party happens once. Your, whatever it is, can be rescheduled." I clutched the phone tighter, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I've been waiting 3 months for this surgery slot. Cancel your surgery. My retirement party is more important," Kent insisted, raising his voice. "This isn't a request. If you value your position here, you'll make the right choice." When I didn't immediately respond, he continued, his voice softening into something more menacing. "Think about your future here, Audra. Think about who'll be evaluating your promotion package next quarter. You've been with us, 5 years? That's nothing. I have friends in every corner of this industry. I'll see what I can do," I finally whispered. "That's better. Remember, Thursday, 10 a.m. Wear something appropriate, not like that outfit from the holiday party." The line went dead. I sat motionless, pressure building behind my eyes. My surgeon had warned me that postponing again could mean waiting another 6 months. 6 months of wondering if what was growing inside me was getting worse. 6 months of waking up each night, hand pressed against my side, imagining I could feel it spreading. Kent had always been ruthless, but this crossed every boundary. He'd seen me wince in meetings, noticed when I couldn't stand for presentations. He knew. He just didn't care. My hands trembled as I reached for my water bottle, accidentally knocking it over. Water pooled across my desk, seeping into the stack of reports I'd stayed until midnight finishing. Reports Kent would take credit for, as he always did. That was the moment something inside me shifted. "Wait, I need to pause for a moment. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Your support means everything, and trust me, you'll want to hear how this unfolds. Go ahead, I'll wait." "Done? Great. Let's continue." I'm Audra, by the way. Before all this happened, I was known as the peacemaker, the one who smoothed things over, who never made waves. I grew up in a household where conflict meant danger, so I learned to anticipate needs before they were voiced, to blend into backgrounds, to make myself useful without being noticed. At 33, I had climbed to head of operations through relentless work and strategic problem solving. I wasn't flashy or outspoken. My strength was in the details others overlooked. People underestimated me, Kent especially. I met Kent when I joined the company fresh out of grad school. He was already a legend then, the aggressive, results-driven executive who transformed struggling divisions into profit machines. His methods were questionable, but no one challenged his results. When he selected me for his team, I was flattered. That feeling evaporated during our first quarterly review when he took my carefully prepared analysis, removed my name, and presented it as his own work. When I privately mentioned it, he laughed. "Welcome to the real world, kid. Ideas belong to whoever has the power to implement them." Over the years, I watched him crush competitors, subordinates, even supposed friends. He collected people's vulnerabilities like treasures, storing them away until they became useful weapons. I witnessed brilliant colleagues reduced to shadows after crossing him. One woman quit the industry entirely after Kent systematically dismantled her reputation following a minor disagreement. I survived by becoming indispensable while remaining invisible. I anticipated his needs, cleaned up his messes, and never, ever challenged him openly. Then came my diagnosis. The first symptoms were easy to dismiss: fatigue, occasional pain. By the time I couldn't ignore them anymore, my doctor's expression had turned grave. "We need to remove this growth immediately, Audra. The location concerns me." Kent's initial response seemed understanding. He approved my time off, mentioned his sister's similar health scare. I believed he empathized. Then the passive-aggressive comments started. The scheduling of critical meetings during my doctor appointments. The subtle reminders about team members pulling their weight. The pointed stories about his own perfect attendance record despite far worse health issues. With each passing week, his behavior worsened. He questioned my commitment, my focus, my value, sometimes privately, sometimes in front of colleagues. People who once sought my input began excluding me from decisions. My carefully built professional foundation was crumbling. And now, this ultimatum: surgery or career. As I sat at my desk that day, watching water soak through my papers, I made a decision. I would go to my surgery as planned, but I wouldn't go quietly. The next morning, I arrived at work earlier than usual. The building was quiet, still waking up. I needed time alone to think, to plan. Kent's office door was ajar. He never bothered locking it, a display of his untouchable status. Inside, his walls were covered with photos of himself with industry leaders, celebrities, politicians, each image carefully selected to showcase his influence, his power. I stood in his doorway, studying the space where he'd spent more hours than in his own home, the place from which he'd controlled not just business operations, but people's lives, my life. My side throbbed, a persistent reminder of what was growing inside me. The doctor had used words like concerning and aggressive, words that matched Kent himself. I returned to my desk and pulled up the company organizational chart. Kent reported directly to Elena, our rarely seen CEO. She maintained a reputation for brilliance, mixed with intimidating detachment. Most employees had never exchanged more than a few words with her. Through my operations role, I had access to nearly everything: schedules, communications, decision histories. Kent relied on me to manage information flow, while never realizing how much I actually knew. For 5 years, I'd been the silent witness to Kent's methods. I'd seen him take credit for successes and assign blame for failures. I'd watched him strategically eliminate threats through careful character assassination. I'd heard him in closed meetings, revealing his true nature when he thought only allies were present. All those years of observation had taught me something crucial. Kent's greatest strength was also his greatest weakness, his absolute certainty that no one would ever challenge him directly. I pulled up my email and began typing a message to Elena, then stopped, deleted everything, and shut my laptop. Not yet. First, I needed to prepare. That evening, I stayed late, waiting until the office emptied. I needed to gather certain information before making my move. Information Kent believed was accessible only to him. As I worked, memories surfaced of all the times I'd enabled Kent's behavior. The fabricated performance reviews he'd asked me to draft for employees he wanted gone. The adjusted reports where unfavorable data mysteriously disappeared. The private conversations I'd pretended not to overhear. My complicity weighed on me. I had helped build the very system that was now crushing me. My phone buzzed with a text from Zeke, my neighbor who had driven me to previous medical appointments. "Still on for Thursday pickup at 7 a.m.? I texted back, "Yes, and thanks again." Zeke had no idea what was happening at work. Nobody did. I'd kept my professional struggles as private as my medical ones. Wednesday morning, Kent called me into his office. "Audra, good news. I've arranged for a videographer for tomorrow's event. I want everything captured. The speeches, the toast, the board's presence, all of it." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "You've confirmed you'll be there, correct?" His eyes narrowed slightly. "I've made arrangements," I answered carefully. "Excellent." He leaned back in his chair. "There's something else we should discuss. I've been thinking about your future here." My heart quickened. Elena mentioned potential restructuring after my departure. Several positions might be reevaluated. The threat couldn't have been clearer. Show up tomorrow, or lose everything. "I appreciate your concern for my career, Kent," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He smiled, mistaking my calmness for submission. "That's what I've always liked about you, Audra. You understand how things work." As I turned to leave, he added, "Oh, and wear something nice tomorrow. The blue dress from last year's gala would work. It made you look almost presentable." I spent that night organizing everything I'd gathered. Sleep was impossible, both from pain and anticipation. By morning, I was exhausted, but focused. Zeke arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, concerned when he saw my appearance. "You okay? You look like you haven't slept." "Just nervous about the procedure," I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. At the hospital, the pre-op nurse took my vitals and frowned. "Your blood pressure's elevated. Anything stressing you out besides the surgery?" I laughed weakly, just deciding between life-saving medical care and career suicide. She didn't laugh. "That's not a choice anyone should have to make." "Some people disagree," I murmured as she inserted my IV. As the anesthesia began taking effect, my last conscious thought was of Kent standing before his audience, glass raised in self-congratulation, completely unaware of what was coming. I woke hours later, groggy and disoriented. A different nurse checked my incision and adjusted my medication. "Everything went well," she assured me. "The doctor will be by soon to discuss details." I reached for my phone, checking the time. 2:17 p.m. Kent's party would be in full swing. I had one crucial task to complete. With shaking hands, I opened my email and found the draft I'd prepared. I attached several files, added Elena's address, and hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and finally allowed myself to rest. The days that followed passed in a haze of pain medication and fitful sleep. I declined all work calls, using my medical leave as the perfect shield. Information about what happened after my email reached me in fragments: text messages from concerned colleagues, vague voicemails, news articles that danced around specifics. 1 week after surgery, still recovering at home, I heard a knock at my door. Through the peephole, I saw Elena herself, standing in my hallway. My heart hammered as I opened the door. Elena was exactly as she appeared in company photos, immaculately dressed, expression unreadable, posture perfect. But photos hadn't captured the intensity of her gaze. "May I come in?" she asked, her voice neither friendly nor hostile. I stepped aside, suddenly conscious of my sweatpants and unwashed hair. She declined my offer of tea, settling instead on my sofa with practiced grace. "I thought we should speak directly, given the circumstances." I lowered myself carefully into a chair, mindful of my still healing incision. "First," she said, "how are you recovering?" The question surprised me. "Better, each day. The doctor says everything looks good so far." She nodded. "Good, that's good." She paused, studying me. "You've created quite a situation, Audra." "I know. Do you?" Her eyebrow arched. "The board is in an uproar. Legal is working overtime. And Kent," she trailed off. "Where is Kent?" I asked. "Currently? Meeting with his personal attorney, I imagine. He's been removed from company premises pending investigation." The words hit me with physical force. Kent, untouchable, invincible Kent, had been removed. "Your email was quite thorough," Elena continued, "though I'm curious why you sent it precisely during his retirement celebration. Would you have opened it otherwise?" I asked. For the first time, something like respect flickered across her face. "Perhaps not immediately. And timing matters in situations like these." "Indeed it does." She leaned forward slightly. "What I'm struggling to understand is why now? After 5 years of witnessing what you documented, why choose this moment to act?" I met her gaze directly. "Because he finally forced me to choose between my life and his ego, and I chose my life." Elena's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "That's perhaps the most honest answer I've heard in years." She stood to leave, then paused. "The board meets next Wednesday to discuss next steps. Your presence would be helpful." "I'll be there," I promised. After she left, I sat motionless, processing what had just happened. The wheels I'd set in motion were turning faster than I'd anticipated. Kent was already removed, the board was involved, and Elena had come to me personally. But this wasn't over. Kent had allies, people who'd benefited from his methods for years. They wouldn't let him fall without a fight. And if he somehow retained his influence, his retribution would be swift and merciless. I touched my side gently, feeling the bandage beneath my shirt. The doctor had removed what was threatening my life, but I had started something that could still destroy everything I'd worked for. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You have no idea what you've done. Kent has friends you've never even met. Sleep well." I stared at the message, a chill spreading through me. The real battle was just beginning. The anonymous text was just the beginning. Over the next few days, the pressure mounted like a physical weight. My work email filled with messages from Kent's longtime colleagues, some expressing shock, others thinly veiled threats disguised as concerns about my judgment. 3 executives canceled previously scheduled meetings with me. My team members grew quiet when I joined video calls, their eyes darting nervously off-screen. I understood their fear. For decades, Kent had represented what success looked like in our industry. Challenge him, and you challenge the entire system that had elevated countless careers built on the same ruthless principles he embodied. On Friday afternoon, my phone rang. The number was blocked. Audra, Kent's voice, calm and measured in a way that made my skin crawl. I thought we should chat before things get unnecessarily complicated. My mouth went dry. I'm on medical leave. Any work discussions should happen when I return. This isn't a work discussion. His tone shifted slightly. This is me offering you a lifeline. I said nothing, waiting. You're upset. I understand. The stress of your health situation, combined with the pressure of your role, it's affected your judgment. Anyone would sympathize. Is there a point to this call, Kent? Here's what's going to happen. You'll send a follow-up email explaining that your medication caused confusion, that in your compromised state, you misinterpreted normal business practices. I'll accept your apology privately, and we'll move forward. The audacity was breathtaking. And if I don't? His laugh was soft. Audra, be realistic. You're a mid-level executive with performance issues who sent unsubstantiated accusations while under the influence of powerful medications. I'm a 37-year veteran with connections throughout the industry. My evidence isn't unsubstantiated. Evidence? The word carried a dismissive edge. You mean the selective snippets you've misrepresented? Context matters, Audra, and I control the context. He paused, allowing his threat to settle. You have until Monday to retract. After that, my legal team takes over. They're quite thorough. He hung up without waiting for my response. I sat motionless, the phone still pressed to my ear. Despite the calm in his voice, I detected something new, a faint undercurrent of uncertainty. Kent wasn't just calling to threaten me. He was testing me, trying to gauge how much I actually knew. The answer would have terrified him. Everything. Over the weekend, I focused on healing, both physically and mentally. I ignored the mounting messages, the increasingly hostile voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize. Instead, I prepared for Wednesday's board meeting, organizing my thoughts and reviewing the material I'd sent Elena. Tuesday night, Zeke brought dinner and sat with me as I picked at my food. You haven't told me what's really happening, he said finally. But 3 different people have knocked on my door asking questions about you. One claimed to be from HR. I set down my fork. What did you tell them? That they should respect your privacy during medical recovery. He studied my face. Audra, are you in trouble? I'm not sure yet, I answered honestly. Either I've just ended my career, or I've done something that actually matters. Those can both be true, he pointed out. Yeah, I managed a small smile. That's what scares me. Wednesday morning dawned clear and cold. I dressed carefully, selecting clothes that projected confidence while accommodating my still tender surgical site. Professional armor. The company headquarters looked unchanged as I entered the lobby, yet everything felt different. The security guard, who normally waved me through with barely a glance, studied my ID carefully before calling upstairs for confirmation. The elevator ride was silent, other passengers avoiding eye contact. Outside the boardroom, Elena's assistant waited. They're ready for you, she said, her expression giving nothing away. I took a deep breath and walked in. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. 14 people seated around a massive table, with Elena at its head. Kent sat 3 chairs away from her, flanked by his 2 closest allies on the board. His expression was placid, controlled. A predator, waiting patiently. Audra, Elena greeted me. Thank you for coming. Please, sit. I took the single open chair directly across from Kent. No accident in that seating arrangement. As everyone has been briefed, Elena continued, we're here to address the allegations contained in Audra's communication from last week. Kent has requested the opportunity to respond first. After that, Audra will have equal time. Kent smiled warmly, activating the charm that had facilitated his rise. First, I want to express my concern for Audra's health. We're all relieved. Your procedure went well. Several board members nodded sympathetically. Perfect opening move. Establish himself as compassionate, while subtly reminding everyone I was operating under medical stress. What we have here is unfortunate but straightforward. he continued. A dedicated employee, under tremendous pressure, has misconstrued standard business interactions. In her compromised state, my state isn't compromised, I interrupted quietly. Kent's smile didn't waver. As I was saying, these allegations reflect a fundamental misunderstanding of executive decision-making. The documentation Audra provided lacks critical context. He spent the next 20 minutes systematically addressing each point from my email, offering alternative explanations, questioning the authenticity of certain exchanges, suggesting dates had been altered. He was masterful, weaving a counter-narrative that transformed my evidence into a collection of misunderstandings and technical misinterpretations. When he finished, the room felt different. Board members who had seemed receptive to my presence now watched me with skepticism. Audra, Elena said, your response? I didn't immediately speak. Instead, I placed my phone on the table, opened my bag, and removed a small portable speaker. I connected the two devices as the room watched in confused silence. Before I respond to Kent's version of events, I'd like you to listen to something, I said. I pressed play. Kent's voice filled the room. Audra, be realistic. You're a mid-level executive with performance issues who sent unsubstantiated accusations while under the influence of powerful medications. I'm a 37-year veteran with connections throughout the industry. My own voice clear and steady. My evidence isn't unsubstantiated. Kent again. Evidence? You mean the selective snippets you've misrepresented? Context matters, Audra, and I control the context. I stopped the recording and looked directly at Kent. His face had lost all color. That call came after I sent my email to Elena. A call in which you attempted to pressure an employee on medical leave to retract truthful statements. I turned to address the entire board. This is Kent's authentic management style when cameras aren't rolling. I played 5 more recordings. Kent demanding I falsify performance reviews. Kent instructing me to delete safety incident reports before regulatory review. Kent discussing how to circumvent the board's explicit directives on 3 separate projects. Kent revealing his strategy for forcing early retirement of employees he considered expendable. With each recording, Kent's carefully constructed persona disintegrated. By the final playback, he had abandoned his practiced calm. Those are illegally obtained recordings, he shouted. She can't use those. Actually, Elena interjected coolly, our state has one-party consent laws for recordings. If Audra was part of these conversations, the recordings are perfectly legal. They're taken out of context, Kent insisted, his face flushed. I smiled for the first time. Context matters, Kent. Isn't that what you said? Then I revealed what my email to Elena had really contained. Not just selected incidents, but a comprehensive 5-year record of Kent's systematic abuses. Every falsified report, every misrepresented financial projection, every instance of harassment disguised as mentorship, every ethical breach he'd justified as business necessity. The documents I sent Elena weren't random examples, I explained. They were organized evidence showing pattern and intent. I didn't just document what Kent did. I documented why he did it, who benefited, and most importantly, who was harmed. I turned to face the board directly. For 5 years, I enabled this behavior through my silence. That makes me complicit. I'm not asking for immunity or special treatment. I'm asking you to acknowledge that our company culture has rewarded Kent's methods while punishing those who challenge them. The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Elena spoke. Kent, I think it would be best if you stepped outside while the board discusses next steps. This is absurd, he sputtered. You can't possibly. Security is waiting in the hall, Elena interrupted, her voice steel. They'll escort you to your office, where you may collect personal belongings under supervision. Kent looked around the table, seeking allies. Finding none, he stood, straightened his jacket with forced dignity, and walked out without another word. The board's deliberation lasted hours. I answered countless questions, provided additional documentation, and withstood intense scrutiny of my own role in events. By late afternoon, the decision was unanimous. Kent was terminated immediately. His retirement benefits remained intact, a concession to legal reality rather than moral judgment, but his legacy was irreparably altered. 3 board members with close ties to Kent resigned that same day. As for me, I received a formal reprimand for failing to report ethics violations sooner. Fair, if incomplete acknowledgement of the impossible position I'd occupied. I was placed on extended paid leave, while an independent firm conducted a broader investigation of our department. 6 weeks later, I returned to a transformed workplace. Elena had implemented sweeping cultural changes, including anonymous reporting systems, restructured performance metrics, and mandatory ethics training for leadership. My role had expanded to include oversight of these new accountability measures. The company didn't suddenly become perfect. Some of Kent's protégés remained, watching from the shadows, adapting their methods to the new reality. But something fundamental had shifted. People spoke up in meetings, junior staff asked challenging questions, the fear that had permeated every interaction gradually lifted. On my first day back, I found a handwritten note on my desk. No signature, but I recognized Elena's precise handwriting. Sometimes the most important surgeries remove what's been poisoning us for years. I kept that note as a reminder that systems don't change until someone risks everything to challenge them. That someone had been me, but it didn't have to stop there. Every person who witnessed what happened learned the same lesson I had. Silence enables abuse, but courage is contagious. If my story resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I share these real-life experiences hoping they'll inspire you to recognize when your own moment of truth arrives. Because trust me, in every workplace, in every relationship, that moment will come. The only question is whether you'll be ready when it does. Leave a comment below about a time you had to stand up against someone who seemed untouchable. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now.